The atmosphere in the View studio felt different that morning, charged, almost humming with invisible tension. Crew members moved a little faster, makeup artists whispered nervously in corners, and even the usually chatty audience was unusually quiet before the live taping began. Everyone could feel it. Matthew McConaughey was about to sit across from Joy Behar, and the producers knew sparks were bound to fly. He arrived in that effortless, unhurried way that only Matthew McConaughey could pull off, a laid-back swagger wrapped in calm confidence. Dressed in a fitted navy shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a pair of worn boots that looked more at home on a Texas porch than a Manhattan set, he greeted everyone with a smile and a "Mornin', y'all," like he was walking into a barbecue instead of a talk show known for its verbal shootouts. Joy, on the other hand, was all precision and poise. Her notes were stacked neatly, the corners of her cue cards perfectly aligned. She'd read his book, or at least skimmed the controversial parts, and had already marked the passages she intended to question him on. She admired McConaughey's charisma, sure, but she also knew that charm could be a weapon, and she wasn't about to be caught off guard. Whoopi Goldberg leaned back in her chair, sipping her coffee as the countdown to Live broadcast began. "You ready for this one?" she murmured to Joy with a smirk. Joy didn't look up. "He's a charmer, but I've handled bigger egos." "Maybe," Whoopi replied, raising an eyebrow. "But this one comes with a southern drawl and a philosophy degree in smooth talking." Joy laughed under her breath. "Then let's see how philosophical he feels when I start asking about his comments on sensitivity." The producer's voice cut in from behind the cameras. "We're live in 10 seconds. The audience applauded as the show began. The hosts smiled, waved, and the upbeat theme music faded out. Joy leaned forward, her voice bright and smooth. "Welcome back to The View. Our next guest is one of Hollywood's most beloved actors, an Oscar winner, and now a best-selling author. Please welcome Matthew McConaughey." The crowd erupted. Matthew stood, gave a modest wave, and took his seat, smiling warmly at the panel. "Good to be here, ladies. Thanks for having me." "Always a pleasure," Joy said sweetly, though there was a glint in her eye that told a different story. "Now, Matthew, you've written this fascinating new book called Country Strong, Lessons from the Road, and it's all about resilience, discipline, and living authentically. But I've got to ask," she shuffled her note cards for effect. "You've said in interviews that today's culture is too sensitive, that people are, quote, afraid of getting their feelings hurt. Don't you think that kind of thinking undermines empathy?" Matthew leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed but attentive. "Not at all," he said with that honeyed Texas accent that turned even disagreement into melody. "Empathy's what keeps us connected. But there's a difference between empathy and fragility. One helps us grow. The other keeps us stuck." The crowd murmured its approval. Joy smiled tightly. "That's a nice line, but what do you say to people who believe comments like that dismiss the real pain others feel? Some might call that privileged talking." There it was, the first spark. Matthew's smile never faded, but his eyes sharpened. "Well, I can only speak from my experience," he said. "I grew up in a blue-collar family down in Texas. My dad worked hard, my mom worked harder. We didn't have the luxury of complaining every time life got rough. You either toughened up or you fell behind." Joy leaned in, ready to pounce. "But you're not that kid anymore, Matthew. You're a millionaire movie star. Isn't it easy to tell people to toughen up from where you sit?" The tension in the room tightened. The audience grew silent. Matthew chuckled softly, more amused than offended. "You're right, I've been fortunate. But life doesn't stop testing you just because you've made it. You either face those tests head-on or you drown in them. What I'm saying is, we can care about people's struggles without telling them they're too fragile to overcome them." Whoopi nodded slightly, impressed. "Joy, not so much. That sounds lovely, but when you talk about people being too fragile, it can come across like you're minimizing real issues. Racism, inequality, injustice." Matthew raised a hand slightly, cutting her off gently. "No, ma'am, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we can fight those things without losing our backbone in the process. You can be kind without being weak." The audience erupted into applause. Even Sunny Hostin clapped quietly, though she kept her head down. Joy forced a smile. So what do you call people who speak out loudly about what they see as injustice? Are they weak or just noisy? Matthew's grin returned. That slow, dangerous, unshakable one. Depends, he said. Are they trying to fix something or just be heard? The reaction was instant. Gasps, laughter, scattered cheers. Joy blinked, momentarily thrown off. Whoopi grinned. You walked right into that one, Joy. Joy laughed it off, though her cheeks flushed slightly. Okay, fair point. But you have to admit, sometimes yelling is the only way to be heard. Matthew nodded slowly, giving her that long, thoughtful pause that made even silence sound intentional. Maybe. But the problem is, when everybody's yelling, nobody's listening. You can't build a bridge with an echo. By the time Matthew McConaughey's SUV pulled away from the ABC building, social media had already caught fire. Clips of his calm dismantling of Joy Behar's talking points were spreading across Twitter and TikTok like wildfire. Viewers were replaying every line, dissecting his expressions, quoting his words like they were scripture. Within an hour, hashtags like our McConaughey vs Behar, our Grab a Bucket, and View Meltdown were trending across multiple platforms. What had started as a simple book promo was now the biggest viral moment The View had seen in years. Inside the studio, the atmosphere was split down the middle, half shock, half awe. Producers huddled behind the control room glass trying to decide how to handle the explosion. Joy had stormed off the set as soon as the cameras stopped, mumbling something about needing fresh air. Whoopi, meanwhile, was still laughing, leaning back in her chair as the crew scurried around. That man just gave a TED Talk in a cowboy hat, she said to no one in particular. Sarah Haynes laughed softly. I don't think I've ever seen Joy that off balance. Sunny Hostin adjusted her mic. It wasn't just what he said, she murmured. It was how he said it. He didn't raise his voice once, but he completely owned that conversation. Whoopi grinned. That's what happens when you wrestle a man who wrestles silence for fun. Joy's good, but he's been doing this longer than most of us have been watching. Down the hall, Joy was pacing in her dressing room, still seething. Her assistant stood nearby, tablet in hand, reading comments in real time. Joy, you're trending, the assistant said carefully. But not in the way we'd want. Joy turned sharply. Oh, I can imagine. The assistant continued, nervously scrolling. Most people are saying McConaughey destroyed you. They're replaying that line about shouting in buckets over and over. Joy groaned, rubbing her temples. Great! I get schooled by a man who sounds like a bumper sticker. You did fine, the assistant offered weakly. No, Joy muttered. I got out-charmed, and that's worse than losing an argument. He smiled the whole time, like some philosophical cowboy. You can't fight that kind of charm. It's like trying to slap a cloud. Meanwhile, across town, Matthew was sitting in his hotel suite, the city skyline glowing outside the window. He had kicked off his boots, set his phone on the coffee table, and was sipping a cold beer while his publicist paced around the room. You've gone viral, she said for the 5th time, her voice half excitement, half panic. Every outlet's running with this. Variety, Deadline, even political blogs. You're being called everything from a truth teller to Hollywood's last real man. Matthew chuckled. Last real man, huh? That's a heavy crown to wear. You might want to issue a follow-up statement, she said. Something that clarifies you weren't attacking Joy or anyone personally. He smiled, shaking his head. No need for that. I wasn't attacking anybody. I just said what I believe. You start apologizing for honesty, you might as well stop talking altogether. His phone buzzed again, dozens of new notifications lighting up the screen. There were texts from friends, journalists, even a few fellow actors. One from Woody Harrelson simply read, Damn, brother. You turned daytime TV into a philosophy class. He laughed quietly, pocketing the phone. Later that evening, the clip hit Entertainment Tonight. The segment showed a montage of Matthew's calm expressions and Joy's tightening jawline. The voiceover called it one of the most surprising on-air clashes of the year. The host summarized, Matthew McConaughey may not have raised his voice, but his words hit like a sledgehammer. Back at the View's offices, Joy was in a meeting with the show's senior producers. The walls buzzed with nervous energy. Everyone knew Joy had been embarrassed, not humiliated necessarily, but